Hi, I want to unpack for you how to maximize the profits in your business in the next 90 days. In fact, what I'm about to show you is a framework that we use with our clients. One of our clients actually just used this and they doubled their profits in 77 days. Now, this training is going to suit those business owners who are already making $500,000 to $1 million to $2 million worth of revenue. You've got staff, you've been in business for at least 3 years. It's not really going to suit out those business owners who are just starting out. In fact, if you're just starting out, I've actually got some better material that'll be a lot more useful to you, and I can send it through if you like. But if you're sitting there watching this and you've been in business for more than 3 years and business is really taking traction and you're starting to grow, you've grown quite a lot, then what I'm about to show you is a game changer. My name's Harvey. I own and run Collective Coaching. It's a mentoring businesses, and we specialize in working with the trades, so plumbers, electricians, builders, construction, manufacturing as well. And we really show them how to maximize the efforts that they're putting into the business so they get the best and maximum rewards without having to work 24/7. But enough said, let me get stuck into some of the things that are really going to help you guys out. And when we start with clients, one of the things that we start off with is really do a deep dive to really figure out what are the things that are holding them back, and in particular, their profits, that's making them work extra hours and it's making them waste money. And so I'm just going to share with you a little bit of a snippet of in our training that we do. And so a lot of you can probably relate to this. This is what I call our profit killer for most businesses. So these profit killers are things like high costs. And what that means for plumbers and builders and electricians are things like callbacks. They're things like your staff having to go back and pick up materials that they've left behind. They're things that make your business inefficient. And that just sucks money right out of your business. But in particular, callbacks. Or having problems with your staff. The other issue that I see a lot of is there's a lot of business owners who tend to really lowball their margins within their work, and their business model just isn't very profitable. And I'm not just talking about pricing your business, pricing the work more, like putting a bigger markup on your work. I'm not just talking about that. There's a lot more to that. But the end result is that you're not making very much profit out of that business. So if you're sitting there watching it and you're only making 10% out of your net profit, after you pay all your expenses, then this is a game changer for you. So listen up, because what I'm about to share with you in a second will fix the low margin work that you're building. The other thing that is a big problem, and in particular, the challenges that the industry is having now, is the lack of money in the bank account. Now, there's a lot of businesses that have gone under simply not because they weren't profitable, simply because there wasn't any cash in the bank. And in times, you might have experienced one or two of these. If you've experienced all three, then you would know how much pain and stress this causes you and your family and how much energy it takes out. So what I'm going to show you now is how we can minimize and avoid these issues, because this is what this is all about. How do we implement things in your business that make an impact? And some of the things that I'm going to show you, they're very simple to understand because I've designed them that way. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're easy to execute. So they're easy to understand, hard to execute. And that's why when you start listening to them, I want you to picture yourself being at the bottom of the stairs and you're about to take the steps up so you can see where you want to go, which is the higher profits. But what you really want to start building is, sorry, I've just jumped ahead, but what you really want to start doing is sitting there and going, okay, what is my first next step? And every business is different, but let me get started with something that I see a lot of. And the way I see this is a lot of business owners come to me and, you know, the way they describe the business tells me that there's issues within the team and there's issues within the systems. The way I know that is because they tell me that their staff are an issue to deal with. And they don't normally have very efficient systems, which is causing them to have a lot of fallbacks or a lot of money wasted. And so one of the things that we do with our clients is really work on building what I call effective management. Now, most of you may not have had effective management training, but one of the things that we do, and can you write these down if you have a pen and paper? Because I want you to do something to improve your business, right? So by effective management, when it comes to improving profits and getting higher profits, what I mean by that is I want you to sit down in your business and work out what you can eliminate and what you can reduce. And the best way to do that, this is not sexy, by the way, this is quite boring stuff. And if you've got a bookkeeper, I would even encourage you to do the work first and then get your bookkeeper to help you out with it. But when we're looking through, the way you have to do this is you have to look through all the expenses in your profit and loss and really figure out the ones that are going to save you the most money, and you go for those first. Don't go for the ones that are only going to save you pennies. Go for the ones that are going to save you the most first. The second thing, that when we look at teams, because if you get teams right, that means your staff are adding value to the business. And sometimes we have processes and systems that don't really support our staff. So your job as a good manager is to make their job easier. It's not for you to expect them to do something. It's for you to make their job easier. And when it comes to systems, you really want to have automation, because the more automation you have, the less expense you have and the more scalable your profits are. So in other words, scalable means that your profits stay pretty much grounded at a certain level as your revenue expands. And that's the ultimate aim when we're building team and systems, building a strong team and a very strong, efficient systems. And that will mean you've got less wastage, less callbacks, less issues to deal with. Now, when it's done right, most business owners can save a good 10 to 30% in costs. Now, let me put that into perspective. If you're like, and I've actually helped a client who was a carpenter, and the reason I bring this is because it's a very simple example to work off. So he was turning over $1 million. His costs were about 900 grand. So his net profit was 100 grand a year. Now, if we sat there and we said, how do we bring the power of systems and team into it? And let's say we didn't get the 10 to 20% or 30% cost reduction. Let's say you only got 5%. Well, a 5% cost reduction equates to a 45% increase in profit. That's $45,000 extra. Now, between you and me, I don't think there's many business owners right now who would turn away that. And so if you're looking at it and you really write down what I said, there's nothing really stopping you from going out and doing it. And what I've found is the biggest hindrance to this is just getting started. And if you have issues with getting things started, then schedule a time in the week where you're going to spend an hour going through things in your profit and loss, not looking at revenue. You're looking at things that you can eliminate and that you can reduce. And then you go after them and you nail it. And you do that on a consistent basis. There's a few other things we do, but I just want to give you the ground framework so you pick up things and start improving your business now. The second thing that really is going to drive your profits higher is going to be value. Value of delivery is so critical to many business owners. In fact, this is a game changer. And when I start speaking about this, I'm not talking about simply pricing your work with a higher markup. So you might have a 10% or 20% markup and you're thinking of putting a 30% or 40% markup, whatever it might be. It's not about that. Because the issue when you do that, it's like going out and quoting works and suddenly your quotes are 40% more expensive. Well, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to say, no, thank you, because you haven't fixed the issue. The issue is you haven't been able to show customers why your work is more valuable. And what I mean by that is people are happy to spend, they don't want the cheapest quotes. They want stuff that's worth it. And you're going to be able to demonstrate to your customers that you are worth paying more for it. And change your model to such a way that every job you win is more profitable. And that will mean that you have to turn some work away. Because if you're taking in work that's very low in profit, it's going to kill your profits. And it's going to lead to the businesses that you hear that are only making 10% profit. It's not a lot. And the second thing you want to work on in terms of value is making sure you've got really high conversion rates, because the last thing you want to be doing is doing 20 quotes and only winning 10 of them. That's the last thing you want. And just to highlight how important this is, because like I mentioned before, it's very easy to increase the price. What's hard is getting customers to accept it. So if you were terrible at it, and you could only increase your revenue by 10%, and that original example that I gave of that carpenter, and this is just strictly applicable if you're a plumber or an electrician or a builder, but just in that example, a 10% change in revenue equates to $100,000 extra in profit. And that's why the value delivery is so critical to have in your business. And if I can bring the two together for you, if you work on one side, reducing those costs, and on the other side, you work on improving the value that your customers will see when they come to see you. And I'm not talking about changing your product entirely. I'm talking about communicating the value to your customers and changing it in such a way that it's a no-brainer for them to take on your business. That's what I mean. It's a no-brainer for them to do the upsell. It's a no-brainer for them to take the quality offer that you offer. Well, when you combine those two things together, and we've given pretty conservative numbers so you could understand the benefit of this, but even with those two conservative numbers, when we combine them, if we have the original profit at $100,000, the combined improvement of reducing costs by having a strong team and really good systems and improving the value for your customers, just those two things alone more than doubles your profit to $245,000. Now, that is a game changer for business owners. And that's what I mean before, but by being able to deliver all of it. You have to be able to make sure that you've got a really good value delivery for your customers, and you have to make sure that you've got a really good cost base to work off. And the way you have a really good cost base is you have a good team and you have really good systems. If you don't have those, it's not going to work. If you don't really have very good value delivery for your customers, you're not going to win work. So there's no point pricing jobs at a higher price, because you simply aren't winning them. And the other important thing in value delivery, which I didn't quite mention before, and we work a lot with customers around this. In fact, if you don't work on this on value delivery, it's not going to work. And is you need to be sitting there in front of prospects who have the financial capacity to pay you more. If you're sitting there and your prospects don't have the capacity to pay you more, then it's not going to work either. And that's why that value delivery piece has to be all-encompassing. The third thing, which I'm not going to touch on because we don't have enough time for this training, is really cash in the door. But without having cash in your business, none of what we talked about works, because you can make all the profit you like, but if you've got a $200,000 or a $300,000 tax bill and there's no cash to pay it, and you've got to pay suppliers and staff tomorrow, then